Hey, Sooner football fans. This is your Sooner football fans podcast. On today's podcast, all the way from Danville, California, we have Dan Donnelly on with us. Not only is Dan a Sooner fan living in Northern California, he's also the founder of Tailgate Connect. So if you got a great tailgate, Dan's going to tell you how to be the host of a tailgate for fans who travel in looking for a good tailgate. Sooner football fans is not affiliated with the University of Oklahoma, but we do have eligibility left. Boomer. Hey, Sooner football fans. You got Terry and Rob here. Boomer Rob.
Boom, Terry.
And all the way out from Northern California on a podcast. He's a Sooner fan all the way out in California, so we've had two Sooner fans from California on this week. And he's also the creator of the website Tailgate Connect. We have Sooner fan Dan Donnelly. Boomer, Dan.
Sooner.
How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic, guys. How are you?
Doing great. Now, you said Northern California, or you're not close to being on fire, are you?
No fires. I think the closest ones are up toward Redding, which is like 3.5 hours north from here. So I'm in the area they call the East Bay, a little town called Danville.
Ah, they named it after you.
They did. That way I can always find my way home properly from any type of adult beverage establishment.
Yeah. You said, this is my town. And
That's
you're
right.
So
in the right direction.
Is it pretty cold up there in Danville, or how close are you to San Francisco?
Yeah, we're about an hour from San Francisco, an hour from San Jose. So if you kind of triangulated it and came inland a little bit. So where I am, it tends to be probably like 15 to 20 degrees warmer than it is in San Francisco. We're inland a bit, so we're kind of trapped in the hills, and it tends to be a lot more warm out here in the summer.
Okay.
So tell us how you became. Are you originally from Oklahoma, or how did you become a Sooner fan?
Yeah, so no, I'm originally from the East Coast, but a few years back, I won't date myself too much here, but I was stationed at Fort Sill, and it was during the Barry Switzer era. And on our weekends, we had options of getting in trouble in Lawton or going up to football games. So quite a few weekends, we'd go up to Norman. And back then, that's when Jamel Holloway was the quarterback, followed by Charles Thompson.
Yeah.
And it was infectious. It was just a great time at that point to be a Sooner fan, and really caught on at that time to follow the Sooners.
Okay. So also, let's talk about Tailgate Connect before we get into Sooner talk. Tell us all about your website and what it's designed to do and what its purpose is.
Sure thing. So little background on that. About 14 years ago, I set out on a quest to basically go to a game and a tailgate at every Division I college football stadium. And 10 years ago, I started actually writing a blog called Dan from the Tailgate to chronicle the journey and talk about everything that I was able to experience at each particular game that I went to, and more importantly, the tailgate. For me, I've got a saying that the tailgate is as important, if not even more important sometimes, than the game itself, and it really adds to the overall atmosphere and the excitement that you get on a college football Saturday.
Right.
So during the time of my quest, I had people always saying, do you make money on this? And my answer is no. I really love doing this. It's a hobby. It's a passion. And they're like, well, you should find out a way to make money. So about a year and a half ago, I was at the Penn State USC Rose Bowl. We're not going to talk about the other Rose Bowl right now.
Yeah.
And we were having I live 5 hours from Pasadena, so I pretty much go down there every year regardless of who's in the Rose Bowl. And we were having a really good tailgate, and a group of Penn State fans pulled up, and they had a 12-pack of beer and some stale chips in the back of their trunk, and they looked pretty sad. And we're like, "Come on over, guys, join us." And we've got plenty of food, we've got games, we've got a full bar, etc. And they joined us, and they had a phenomenal time, and they couldn't stop raving about it. They're like, guys, this was so much fun. Do you do this all the time? And I said, well, frankly, I get invited to a lot of tailgates myself, so I've been the benefactor as well. So when I got home from that Rose Bowl, it light bulb went off, and I'm like, all right, I got it. I know what I need to do. So the concept came up of connecting traveling fans, or even as I call them, nomad fans. It might be local fans that don't have a tailgate, to those that do have a host tailgate at the home stadium. So there was a good friend of mine who, both of us are also freelance writers for different sports and tailgating journals and magazines. I contacted him. His name's Joe Rogers. He lives out on the East Coast, and I said, Joe, I think I've got it. And he was the first person that I pulled in, and he's basically running the website for us and does a lot of the recruiting, etc. So what we did is we're like, all right, we need first of all, let's file for to be incorporated. So we did that, put together filing for our trademark, for our name, did some domain name searches and secured those. Then we decided, all right, let's do a few beta trials. This is back in 2017. Let's figure out, what works and what doesn't work. So we tested it out at a few different tailgates last fall, and came up with a good plan of what we needed to do. And so our search really led us to trying to find the best tailgates that each college has. First and foremost, you have to have a very good host. It's essential. It's very much like having a good retail front. Once we have that in place, then we're able to actually go out and start really promoting the fact that we've got 40 plus colleges right now where we have what we consider top grade tailgates. And so now we're able to promote to get people to come to our website that are in search of that tailgate. And we're real confident that when they come to the website, they want to go to one of our host tailgates, that they're going to have a fantastic time. And so how it works is they sign up on our website, they pay us, and then we pay the host. And there's some other things in there. We have commissions for people who refer other people to a tailgate. So that's the elevator pitch in a nutshell. It's a combination of you think about the Uber model or the Airbnb model, where it's collaborative consumption. It's using somebody's personal space to essentially have a business, and you put a little bit of a twist in there of a Match.com, if you will, or one of those dating apps where somebody goes to a website. Hey, I need to be connected to a tailgate, and then voila, you've got your Tailgate Connect. So
and another thing that might be interesting to people is, setting up a tailgate's a lot of work. I mean, it is. You got to get there. I think at Oklahoma, you can get there at noon the day before.
It's first come, first serve.
Yeah, and you've got. Well, right. you can get there at 6:00, but you can't put stakes down until noon. So you got people standing there like it's the land run again.
Basically,
that's right. Yep.
And then you can set up your tents at noon, and then you can leave them, and then you got to come back the next day, and unload your tables, your chairs, your food, your cooker. And I saw this year, I guess in the tailgate area, they're not allowing trailers.
Right.
Anything that's a trailer has to go over to, what is it called? Sooner Village, where the RVs are at. And that,
okay. Down by Lloyd Noble.
Yeah. And that's for people that, they may have a trailer that they, have a cover on, and that you used to see down on Jenkins and all those streets down there, but you can't do that anymore. You have to be physically,
right.
Yeah, the university's really cracking down on it, and I mean they're trying to make it better for the fan, but to some extent they're making it harder on the fans.
Right.
Right.
Because it's not an easy thing to tailgate at the University of Oklahoma. Yeah. It's just not.
No.
So, it may be somebody that, hey, I want to, if, fans out there, it's like, I want to tailgate, but I don't want to go through, I can't get off on Friday and be there, all morning long.
That's right.
They can contact you and say, hey, hook me up with a tailgate.
Right.
And they can show up. What all is included? For instance, if I sign up, what do I get? Do I need to bring stuff to the tailgate? How does that work?
And so you bring nothing. So we market it as it's all inclusive, hassle free, and affordable. So you hit the point on hassle free. They don't have to do anything but show up. They're not expected to bring anything at all. It's always nice if somebody brings a gift if they'd like to, a bottle of something. But they show up, and it's all inclusive. We don't use the word all you can eat and all you can drink because we don't want to promote somebody being a glutton. But
yeah, you get me and Rob show up at something like that, we're gonna.
You better have plenty of beer. No,
it's exactly people like Rob that we're trying to keep that away from. But yeah, I mean they show up, and we ask the host to introduce them to the crew that they have, make them feel part of the overall experience. And drink and eat until you're content, and enjoy the day. And the thing is too for us is I've done every kind of tailgate that there is on the road. I've literally packed up a suitcase once and tried out a concept called tailgate in a suitcase. I've been to probably 30 Walmarts across the country where I buy a grill and a styrofoam cooler and all the other things that are necessary for a tailgate, and we roll up the next day and have a really bad 3 or 4 man tailgate versus being part of the crowd and really experiencing what the local teams actually are doing.
So basically, you're like a tailgate ninja, right? I mean,
sometimes I feel like a defeated ninja on those Walmart days when I have 4 people sitting around looking at a bad cooler of beer, but.
Because you've traveled all over the place. You've tried to pack something in a suitcase, to do a tailgate. What's the biggest thing that you tried to do?
I'm sorry, Terry. Could you say that part again?
So what has been the craziest thing you've tried to do other than the tailgate in a suitcase? What's something?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was actually at Utah. So hauling that thing around at 8,000 feet wasn't all that good. I'm trying to think if there's something that really stands out. Well, there was one case that really kind of got me on this whole, starting the blog too. And it was when my brother and I went to LSU about 11 years ago. And, we'd done the Walmart thing on Friday night and like all the food. And we pull up at 9 o'clock in the morning in Baton Rouge on campus, and we start breaking our stuff out. And the guys that were pulling in next to us, they got out and came over and they go, "Hey guys, put your stuff back. Just join us for the day." And we didn't even know these people.
Yeah.
So we proceeded to tailgate with these guys for the next 10 plus hours or so, and have remained friends since then. Keep in touch on social media, etc.
And those were LSU fans.
What was that now?
And those were LSU fans.
Yeah, they were LSU fans, as gracious as could be, because I wasn't wearing anything that said Alabama or anything like that.
Oh, okay. You're wearing neutral colors.
Neutral colors, exactly. Actually, I think I was wearing an LSU T-shirt that day.
Well, say there you go.
Yeah, there it is. But I don't know if that was crazy, but that was something that kind of sticks out as it was pretty instrumental in kind of this overall quest that I have.
Well, it sounds like a really cool concept. Some of the school. What are some of the schools that you've lined up and that people use it through? What are some of the schools?
And I'd also like to know, since you've been to a lot of them, where's the best place to tailgate? Because I know it's not Oklahoma. I know it's not. But tell us.
I always say that the tailgate comes down to the people that you're with as well too. And it sounds cheesy, but it's true. It can make the whole day. You can have all the greatest, accoutrements, a great tent and, food and all that. But if people are boring, you're not going to have a good time. You're not going to remember it. So I've had some great tailgates at Oklahoma. You guys probably remember this one. It wasn't a fun game, but it was the Ohio State game 2 years ago. We're having a great tailgate. The skies are blue, and all of a sudden the skies become just black.
Yeah.
And, the clouds opened up. Obviously the game was delayed that night, all that. But we had a great time. We're standing there in puddles, just, enjoying all the different stories that people were sharing, etc. But if I look at, kind of the overall college town, when you take in the whole weekend, it's hard to beat Oxford, Mississippi. That's a pretty unique setting for, the Friday night before they have their town square, which is like a little Mardi Gras. And then the everything that you've heard about the Grove, if you haven't been there, is pretty much true. They break out their best china. They have, these things called candelabras, which I'd never even seen or heard of before I went there. Everybody's dressed to the nines, and it's a pretty, and the food is amazing too. And everyone's friendly, unless you're there and you're from Alabama or one of the schools that typically beats them. Maybe they're not going to be as friendly to you. But that's a really unique setting. I'd also say that last year we did something kind of unique. We went up to University of Washington, and we had a friend of a friend who owned a yacht, and we did that whole sailgating thing, which was really cool. It was like a foggy morning, and the captain drove us around the whatever you call it, the Seattle Harbor, and then he throws the anchor down, and we're having a great time, and all of a sudden the clouds disappear, and we were literally about 200 yards from the stadium, and we didn't even know it because it had been cloudy, and clouds parted, the stadium's right there. Like, wow, this is pretty amazing. So, but yeah, I mean, I can say almost every school I've been to, there's been something pretty unique that each of them have to offer.
So again, what are some of the schools that you have tailgate? Is there more than one at each school, or can there be three, or is it just one tailgate per school?
Gotcha. Yeah. So we have 4 schools now where we have multiple hosts at. We've got a total of about 40 right now. We've got, I hate to admit this, but in the Big 12, Texas and Iowa State are bigger ones that we have right now for the Big 12. SEC has 7 schools, and Big 10 has, I think, 5. And then there's a smattering in all the other conferences as well.
Okay, so tell everybody how to become a host if they want to become a host. How do they go about doing that?
I'm sorry, Terry. Could you say that part again?
How do they tell everybody how they would become a host tailgate for Oklahoma?
Same thing is, we usually, we've been doing a lot of recruiting on social media, and typically either myself or Joe will have a conversation. People will tell us, a little bit about their tailgate, what they have. What we want to avoid is somebody showing up and collecting money for pulling out that case of you choose it, your bad beer in the back of your trunk and some chips and say, hey, have a good time. So. Most of them are sending us pictures. They're sending us, bios of their tailgate, etc. So, once we both agree that this is a good fit, they go onto our website, and there's a link that says "Become a Host," and there's about 10 questions. They just kind of fill in the blanks there and submit it to us. Once they do that, then we do a big welcome on social media for them. We're also doing preseason webinars for all of our hosts just to make sure they understand all the expectations that they have, or that we have for them, they have for us, and also the guest role. So it's been a really good process, and one of the outcomes of all this is it was unintended, and it's a good one. Is we've now built this fraternity, if you will, of some of the top tailgates in the entire country. And we're introducing other hosts to each other now, and kind of building up this kind of brotherhood, if you will, of people that like to have fun before and after games.
That's pretty cool.
Sounds really cool.
So, Sooner fans, if you think you got the best tailgate or a great tailgate that people would love to come to,
you'd like to host some out of town fans,
and it could be either Sooner fans or the visiting team. Correct? It doesn't have. It can be either or.
Correct.
I think it'd be interesting to host some out of, the opposite team fans. Well, I think that'd be pretty cool, don't you?
Yeah, because we were at the Rose Bowl this year, and we were parked next to some Georgia. It's funny, the father and son that parked next to us sat out there and talked to us for a long time, and they went in when we come walking in the stadium. Their seats were in front of ours. Not only were we parked next to each other. And we didn't know it. It was just happened to be they were in the row in front of us. But
you sat me. That's awesome. That is awesome.
But and all the I know that some of the students and other people had bad experiences, but I had a great experience with the Georgia fans that were sitting around me. They weren't obnoxious. I mean, of course, they couldn't be for a lot of the game because we were kicking the tail.
the snot out of them.
Yeah, very quiet in the first half.
Yeah, and then the wheels came off the wagon, but still they didn't.
Here we are talking about.
Yeah, but and that's like Rob said. I think it would be neat to host, other fans, and sit down and talk with them and find out, because you would learn something about the traditions that you may not know about.
But you and I are not the kind of fans that are going to rub it in on somebody.
Oh, yeah. No.
Unless they're Oklahoma State fans.
Unless they're Oklahoma State fans or Texas.
Yeah, there you go. I will confess, my wife is a cowpoke. So, but she's a converted Sooner fan. Had something to do with our investment the last 4 years.
Okay. It's funny how when you send your kid to that school, you kind of change a little bit. My best friend and one of my best friends in high school, their family was Polk fans, and his daughter went to OU, and it hurt him. And he used to always joke about it, but he came for Parents' Day. And he was at the game, and she was taking pictures and putting them on Facebook. And he goes, she finally got me here, and he wasn't wearing a Sooner shirt, but he was in red and white. And I just,
that's good.
I posted, I sent him a message. I said, for the love of God, don't say pistols firing. Because you will probably get pummeled. Just keep it quiet. He goes, oh yeah, nope. He goes, I'm just watching the game, not cheering, just watching the game. But
that is so funny. Yeah, that's great.
Well, let's get into, since you are a Sooner fan, let's get into a little bit of Sooner football here.
Sure thing.
How, being in California, I said, Rob's high school, best friend in high school, Scotty, was on the podcast the other day, and he's from Los Angeles and keeps track of the Sooners for out there. What do you do to keep track? Is it all internet? What do you got to do living that far away to be involved?
Yeah, great question. I do. I pretty much am that guy that wakes up every day and I pull up my sports apps and start looking at any of the news that's going on. I'm certainly keeping appraised of the quarterback battle that's taking place right now, and it looks like either choice would be phenomenal. It sounds like they're both great. Obviously, we know that Murray's a great athlete, and the other guy's a very highly touted quarterback. So either way, I think we're going to be fine in that area. Oddly enough, one of the starting offensive linemen, Drew Samia, is from the town that I live in out here. He went to the rival high school across the town. He'd be like the Norman North to Norman from the high school that my kids went to. So,
interesting.
Been following his career as well, and he looks like he's done a really good job the last couple of years.
He's a big old boy.
Yeah, he is. Yes, he is.
But so pretty much, it's not much different other than not getting to listen to unless you listen to podcasts and stuff like that. But here in Oklahoma City, you have we've got the Sports Animal.
Oh, you can live stream it.
And you can can. Do you live stream any of those? Do you listen to those or?
I haven't really. I have, also my in-laws live in Oklahoma too. So, I get a lot of info from my father-in-law, my daughter, et cetera, anything that they hear, et cetera. They'll pass that on to me. But I seem to pull up enough online almost every day. And even on social media, I follow, most of the Oklahoma football sites and, different players and, things that are meaningful.
So outside of the quarterback battle, and really that's not a concern. We're all just wondering, everybody has their opinion. Yeah, everybody has their opinion, and most people in Oklahoma, believe it's Kyler, and I was in that realm, but I'm, the more I'm reading the stuff, and Riley, I know a lot of it's got to be, coach speak, but I mean, I don't know. I think just some of the stuff that he says, he's making the comparison, and the comparison isn't bad. You've got, Kyler is explosive, and
right.
and Austin is, steady. He He moves the ball down the field. He's I can't think of the
Methodical?
word. Yeah, methodical. So which do you want? You've got both, but it seems like, and we've been talking about this all week, it seems like what Lincoln is now saying is it's going to come down to who's going to throw the long ball, because we have to throw the long ball in this offense. And
that's right.
It's going to,
if all Kyler is explosive, he's not going to be the starter.
Right. He's going to add that dimension that we're all talking about, more of an option or read option, more of a run threat. And I think that's really the direction that the university is going, that Lincoln is taking it. Just look at, Spencer Rattler, Mordecai, all these quarterbacks that are, lining up at our door right now.
Look, the future looks great.
Yeah. We were talking, on today's podcast, with Matt, it's like our quarterback room's full.
Yeah.
We don't have any more, we don't have any more chairs. So,
no.
But it just seems that's the direction that we're going. But any coach will tell you, it's win now, and who's going to give this team the best chance to win. And it sounds like that, Austin is doing a good enough job at, running the offense. He's not obviously explosive, but yet he moves the offense, more consistently.
So are you calling it now?
No, not yet.
He's not ready to call it. I don't blame you.
I hear a changing of the winds here.
It's just, it wouldn't shock me, honestly. Either one wouldn't shock me. What I don't want is we're going to split time. No, don't do that. Make a decision.
I don't want to do that.
Never works.
Yeah, it never works.
No.
And I don't think Lincoln's that type of coach. It's going to be, because he learned from, Bob. And
well, here's the thing, though. Bob would leave the starter in for 3.8 quarters. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And the backup would get like 5 snaps. So I'm not big on that. If you want to play him the first 3, fine, but give the backup the 4th quarter.
And that's what he did last year. That's what I liked about Lincoln.
Yeah.
Well, because everybody was saying, everybody accused Bob of, trying to pad the stats for the Heisman and stuff like that. But, Lincoln, as soon as we were comfortably ahead, I think a couple of games, Kyler came in the second series after halftime in the third quarter.
Right.
So, it really wouldn't, because I watched the spring game, and, Austin Kendall is more athletic than I thought he was. I thought he was a big, he is big. He's a big dude, but, stand in the pocket. But he can move. I mean, the first play that first play he ran was a zone read, and he kept the ball and got like 15 yards. So,
he's a physical athlete, but, he's not comparable to Kyler Murray.
No.
But,
right.
You couldn't give me a, 38-yard head start and beat Kyler Murray in a 40-yard dash. It's just not going to happen. But it's fun, things like this are fun, but they're also nerve-wracking for me. I want to know. I want to know who my quarterback is.
Right.
I want to know who the running backs are and the receivers, and we're all good with all that. Last year it was the opposite. We knew who our quarterback was. But then everybody was like,
else coming in.
Yeah, oh my God, we're going to be horrible. We're not going to have running backs. We're not going to have this.
Right.
Well, they must have been scrimmaging today, because I seen refs coming up the tunnel.
Yeah, really? I think they did say they were going to have a scrimmage today.
Yeah.
I know they did on Monday, and they called it that the defense won the scrimmage. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Now that may be coach speak. Okay.
That may be coach speak there. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, I was really, really excited when I heard that Bob Diaco joined the defensive coaching staff. So I'll throw another admission in here. I was born a Notre Dame fan. I still do like Notre Dame. I know. I do follow them. So when he was there as the defense coordinator before he went over to UConn, that was the best defense that Notre Dame had in years. And didn't necessarily have, the greatest talent. They always have good talent that they recruit, but no different than any other year. And he did a great job. So when I saw that they picked him up, I think that can only be a positive. He didn't necessarily work out too well as a head coach at UConn, but that's a tough place to do that at.
Yeah.
But I know his.
All right, Sooner fans, want to apologize to you guys listening, and also to Dan. We had a little bit of a recording issue. Had a lot of stuff go in and out. Some static on the line. Not his fault, ours. But finished up talking about Bob Diaco. You missed a good conversation of the Army game, what we're looking forward to with it. But that's where we're going to pick up is Dan talking about the Army offense.
50 pounds, each on the line. But there's just something about the mentality that, they'll go nose to nose with anybody for as long as they can. And, the running game, it's the sleight of hand triple option that it's hard, unless you're playing against that every week, it's hard to stop.
Right, yeah.
We don't see that in the Big 12.
Not much.
It's been a long time since that type of offense has been around.
Well, and it's come out, that I guess Oklahoma has already started working on Army's offense. They've already started putting some of it into the practices. Yeah, just because that's the only time they're going to say they're not going to have time to prepare for it in a week. So
no, you have to you can build the base now, and then that week prior, obviously then they start to really capitalize on what they've already learned.
Right.
Levels of it.
So I was glad to hear that's something that they're doing, but a game that's going to be really hyped up. I think probably the biggest hyped game we're going to have until Texas, and that's in case that is if Texas is truly back.
Right.
Is going to be the FAU game because Lane Kiffin coming in. We've talked about it. He wasn't there when we scheduled this game, and probably wouldn't have scheduled it with him there. This was supposed to be our preseason scrimmage that we have every year, which is a good thing to have. And now all of a sudden,
might very well be a dogfight.
Yeah, it might be.
Yep.
And I'm the same with it. I think it's going to be a dogfight. For 3 quarters. I think with all the non-conference teams that we have, we're just bigger, faster, and stronger.
Right.
We're going to wear them down.
Yep.
But I think
that's the hope.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a ball game. All three, the UCLA game, I think all of them are going to be a ball game for 2.5, 3 quarters.
No, I mean it's a great non-conference schedule right out of the chute. And, all 3 of them are going to present different challenges. But you look at FAU. I don't know if you guys have watched that Netflix series Last Chance U. But they have a number of some of the ex-stars from that series, and one of them was an absolute stud quarterback from Florida State.
Yeah, and
he was hurt, I think, most of last year. So, but if he ends up starting, the guy is just absolutely phenomenal.
He's still there.
What was that now?
He's still there.
He is. Yeah,
Oh,
he's there. So his name is DeAndre, I'm forgetting his last name, maybe Johnson. But, he was just an absolute stud on that show. It's like, geez, this guy is poised. I was thinking the whole time because I knew he had gone to FAU. I'm like, holy smoke.
It's not the quarterback that's on this season, is it?
I don't know because he was hurt last year.
Okay.
So I believe he still has a year of eligibility this year. So I'm hoping it's not him.
Yeah. Yeah, it must have been the one that was in where is it? The other one was in Mississippi because they're doing it in Kansas this year.
Yeah, the other one was in Scuba, Mississippi.
Yeah, so he came
Scuba,
from
Mississippi. And Independence, Kansas was this year. So.
Yeah, because I know that the quarterback that's from Florida State that's on the one this year, he's kind of a punk. I mean,
the one that was on this season from the one up in Kansas.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about him because he seems like he's kind of a head case.
Yeah, I mean he's calling plays on his own, trying to turn the players against the coach. He's stupid and But it's like that kid. There isn't. It's no reason he ain't at Florida State anymore.
Well, and if you recall, he thought, after last year, all three quarterbacks in the first three seasons were all ex-Florida State quarterbacks. The kid in season one, who was actually the backup quarterback for most of the year at Scuba, he ended up going to Auburn. Now he's left Auburn, and I can't remember where he ended up. And it was year two. It was the quarterback from season two is the one that's at Florida Atlantic now. And he was just phenomenal. If you saw that season, it's like, holy smoke, this guy will be really good when he gets back to D1.
If he can keep it together.
Yeah, if he keeps it together. Yeah, right.
Well, I think that's how it is with all those guys that are on that show, because they're not just picking any Joe Blow junior college. They're picking like this guy. The reason why they changed it to the Kansas was when he got the job, all of a sudden he brought in all these I don't know, rejects from other universities. So a whole lot of 4 and 5 star athletes, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, well, this guy is going to be doing something similar. Even though I think their first game they played, they got shellacked like 70-7. I mean,
really?
I
I haven't started this season yet, so.
Yeah, they got it put on them the first game, and then they ended up beating the number one team in the country like 3 weeks later.
Huh.
So. But they were head cases. That's the reason why they got thumped.
Oh.
They're head cases. Right. They hey, we're 4 and 5 star athletes. And they went out there and got it handed to them, and went, well, okay, maybe we're not quite that great.
Absolutely right. I got to say, from watching those 3 seasons, I've certainly learned some new words to string together. I thought the coach at East Mississippi was quite salty in his language until we saw the guy up in the Independence.
Yeah, Independence.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a white guy from Compton. Okay, that's where he grew up, and he still goes back there, gets his hair cut. I mean, Rob, this dude, every other word out of his mouth is either an F-bomb or a word you never heard before.
Okay.
Exactly.
Wow.
This guy's salty. It's entertaining, though.
It's entertaining. And he's not beyond just crawling into his coach's craws either. I mean,
oh no.
I mean, one of them about went fisticuffs with him on the sidelines.
Really?
During a timeout.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw. But and apparently, I guess, was it 2 years prior he had been at that other school in Kansas.
Yeah.
And the legend is that he threw the head coach over a table and then stormed out of there and quit the job.
Yeah. But
he's not a little guy. So
what I like about that show, not I mean, it's interesting, but it's kind of like what we were talking before we started recording. These guys, and it's got to be rough for them, because if they've been recruited and they've gone to somewhere like Oklahoma or Florida State, and now they're getting they're in these junior colleges, and they're getting their ice baths in a horse trough out behind the equipment shed, and it's this year's when the quarterback's coach lives on campus. Coaching staff, the whole coaching staff lives on campus in a dorm.
Yeah.
And they don't get paid. They don't have enough money to pay them.
I'm going to be out on that deal. I can just tell you.
That is for the love of the game right there.
Yeah.
You probably saw the one episode where the young quarterback coach is just not loving life, living in his little room in the dorm. Like this guy's probably 25, 26 years old, and would much rather be doing something else. But hopefully that parlayed into somebody else offering him a job somewhere.
Yeah. High school job or something that you can get a paycheck.
Yeah.
But we were talking about the locker room here, and Rob said it doesn't smell like a locker room here at Oklahoma.
No.
But last summer, me and Rob and Caleb had a guys weekend, went down to caught a couple of Rangers games, and we went and toured Jerry's World, and part of it is they take you down into the locker room, and you got to see the Cowboys locker room. They're talking about it was imported African mahogany wood and all this stuff. And me, Rob, and Caleb stood there when we went in it. We all kind of looked at each other. It was like, this ain't nice at all.
This is the visitors at the
I mean, it shocked me. I mean, I'm telling you, you know, you've seen the stuff on TV. You know, their locker room at Oklahoma is amazing. And the Dallas Cowboys, it looks like my high school locker room with really fancy wood. I mean, that's it's just square boxes, but it's some type of African mahogany that costs, you know, like $10,000 a square foot, and that's what they're made out of. But
it's about half the size of the Sooners lockers.
Yeah, it's not very big. Yeah, it's not very big. It's kind of a U shaped, isn't it? A square U. Yeah, it kind of goes around, and you know, it's not very big. And it's like, man, I really thought this was going to be, you know, something special, but it's pretty basic.
No, when you walk into the Oklahoma Sooners locker room, that's something special. I mean, great big TVs on the wall.
I'm excited to see that. I'll have to hit you up, Rob, when I come back to town there to see if I can get a tour of it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, just you know, I know that Lincoln is dynamic and the stuff that he's doing, you know, recruiting wise, and the way he's, you know, coming across to these kids. You know, he knows how to utilize, you know, social media and all that stuff. But I'm telling you, I don't see how a kid, when they pull up in that, you know, U-shaped drive there where the statues are at, and you see the Switzer Center, you know, that south end zone in person, and then you walk in and the first thing you see is just stacks of championship trophies and then Heisman Trophy.
All the national championship trophies are there right in front.
Yeah.
And then in front of that's all the Big 12 championship trophies. And then all the individual trophies are on the wall. All the bowl trophies are there. And then if you go around behind, all of the rings from every bowl win. And then on that back wall are, you know, obviously the national championship rings. So it is really cool.
Yeah, and then you go into the facilities. I mean, I don't know how you don't come out of there and just go, you know,
I'm going here.
Yeah, I'm going here because my son's, one of his Army buddies, my oldest son was in the Army and came down, and we took him down to the stadium, and it wasn't, you know, the south end zone wasn't done yet. They were, you know, what, Rob, about 3/4
somewhere in that area.
And he's a huge Alabama fan. Okay, and he's been to Alabama games, and he was like enormously impressed. He goes, this, from the outside, it really doesn't look like a stadium. It looks like a castle, you know? And,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, that was his impression and he even said the same thing. He was like, man, if you come here, why would you go anywhere else? Just seeing this.
Palace on the Prairie. It even really looks like one now.
Yeah.
Especially if you're coming from the south.
And, you know, they're fixing, you know, they put up the north end zone video screen now. That'll be in play. And
it's going to be amazing.
And I think the next step is they're going to brick the upper deck, the white part.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, the big press box, because it doesn't match anything now in the stadium. I mean, they re-bricked everything but that, and I saw somewhere that's the next phase is to get the press box stuff redone. So
that's amazing. I mean, it's always been to me just an awesome facility.
Yeah.
You know, going back to the '80s, and you know, now with the changes, you know, the south end zone specifically. I mean, it changed even before the south end zone from when I was there in the '80s.
Yeah.
There were other additions that took place, but it is a beautiful facility.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, and closing up that south end zone makes a difference. It is louder in that place.
I think so too.
Oh,
you don't get quite the breeze though.
Yeah, you don't get the breeze you used to. Because you know that first game, you're sitting there going, "Oh man, it's hot." But I mean, it is. I mean, just the pregame, everything is so much louder. And I was so glad when they finally did, you know, close it up. I mean, it was long overdue.
Yep.
And you know, my only deal was, they didn't, you know, they didn't add seats. They kept it the same because
basically the same, yeah.
Because they cut the top part of the south end zone off. So
right.
You know, that I didn't understand. But
yeah.
You know, I mean, it is what it is. But
That's kind of the move when you look at a lot of these, remodeling with some of these stadiums. Out here we've got Stanford, and Stanford used to be just a giant dump. If you ever remember what it looked like in the old days, I think it could seat about 90,000, but they used to always tarp off good parts of the stadium.
Yeah.
When they redid it, which was about 11 or 12 years ago, they knocked it down. I think it seats about 48,000 now. But a school like Stanford doesn't necessarily draw like anyone in the Big 12 or the SEC or Big 10 does. And so with 48,000, it feels, the feel there is that it's a more better crowd, that kind of thing, because it's not as sparse looking. But that's kind of the mode. I've seen that in a number of places doing the remodeling. They take away seats and maybe put in some boxes and things like that, but there's fewer overall seats.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Cal Stadium?
Oh yeah, I've been there about 30 or 40 times.
Okay.
So they redid that.
Yeah, but it's built on a fault line, don't you?
Oh yeah, my house is on a fault as well.
Well, my son lives in Palmdale, and he's you can throw a rock to the San Andreas Fault from his house.
Oh my God!
But
no, thank you.
But I think it was on Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel. They were on, and you can see part of the I think one of the end zones. It runs down the middle of the field, and they didn't know it when they built it, obviously, but.
Right.
I don't know which side, but I mean, like the east side is like 3 inches further south than the north side. The stadium is actually split. They have a piece of metal on it, but you can see it's separated. It's what the east side's moving north and the west side's moving south.
I believe it. I absolutely believe it.
So I've just made my mind up. I will never go to a game at Cal Stadium.
Well, there's a couple of good bars to hit before you get in there, so you won't even have to worry about the earthquake.
I don't want to be in a stadium that's on a fault line that is actually, you can see that it's in a different place. One side of it's in a different place than what it's supposed to be.
Right.
And that's like my son too. When I was, Palmdale and everything, and one of the things that Palmdale, if you look it up, I didn't know anything about Palmdale. And we were getting ready to go see him, and it's like with San Andreas Fault, and it literally runs right just north of his house. And I'm like, dude, do you know that's the San Andreas Fault right there? And he's like, yeah.
You seen that movie? I mean, it's going to fall.
Yeah. Well, we had, I think it was back in February or March, we had about, 50 little earthquakes within a 2-week span in our little town. They were, the epicenter was here. So even though they're only 3.6 or something like that, when the epicenter is in your town, you feel it.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's commonplace for me. I don't really worry about it, but, my youngest daughter was pretty freaked out about the whole thing. And finally came to me for advice, after 15 years. Dad, what do we do? Just make sure that my refrigerator's stocked with ample beer.
Yeah.
We'll be okay.
Well, and now, Oklahoma, it's kind of calmed down now, but we were leading the country in earthquakes for a while. We were having more than California was. We were having 5, 10, 15 of them a day.
That's just not fair since we get tornadoes.
Yeah, tornado.
That's a double whammy there.
Yeah.
We should have good weather here when that earthquake, right?
Yeah, but that and you feel them here. I mean, we haven't had, I don't think, a big one in a while, but
no.
But we had a couple.
But we also didn't have any tornadoes this year either. So
knock on wood, we're still getting.
Right.
Yeah, we did. We had a tornado last night because we were watching David Payne about jumped out of my TV when it touched the ground. We were getting ready to start the podcast.
Some bad rain yesterday.
Oh yeah, all last night. My back patio flooded. I'm going to go scoop mud off of it. And
man, we've had October weather almost.
Yeah. In August.
Right.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, and we got 2 Jeeps, and I had to go put the doors and the tops back on them because it's supposed to rain every day for the next 2 weeks,
right.
and it has. It's rained every day this week.
Wow.
And it's supposed to do it again next week. So I am not happy about that because taking the doors off of it.
I got caught out in it last night.
let's hope it doesn't impact the Florida Atlantic game, because they're kind of used to that stormy weather.
Yeah. But so what do you think? How do you think the Sooners are going to end up in the season? What's your prediction, Dan? Do you think?
It's hard to tell. As I say, going into every season, I'm always optimistic about the teams that I follow. Obviously, Oklahoma. And that other team that you didn't like up in South Bend, Indiana there. But it's hard to say, because, in this case, it looks like, we've reloaded really, really well. It's a deep team. But, at the same time, you just lost, 3 All-Americans on the offensive side of the ball, Andrews, Baker, and Zeus. They're not everyday players. Those 3 are really special players.
Yeah.
Made a huge impact for, multiple years each, on the team. So, whoever's coming in, to those positions, we already talked about the one, but, who's playing left tackle now, and I'm going to mess his name up, but the young tight end that's coming in, I know
Calcaterra.
Praise and promise. Was it
Calcaterra?
How do you pronounce it?
Calcaterra. Yeah.
That one. It's multiple syllables. I'm not going to get it out, but he looks like he's solid too. So some of those things, like how are those people going to fill in and replace that? But at the same time, the running game looks phenomenal. Get a good chunk of the offensive line back. The receivers are phenomenal. So I'm optimistic. I think the skill positions that are coming back are probably as strong as we've had. Sans, the quarterback.
Yeah.
So I think it looks really good. Now, on the other side of it is I don't know what to expect from the defense. It sounds like they've recruited well, but you pointed out there's a couple of kids that came in that are not going to be able to play this year. But the way that I look at the defense is that they've got to be better than last year. It's going to be hard. Other than the Ohio State game, they were phenomenal.
Yeah.
But then there were games like Baylor and some of the others that it's like, what game are they watching?
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
I'd have my phone would be blowing up with all my Sooner friends. What the hell are they doing? What's going on? And I'm like, don't worry. We got a good offense. They're going to take care of it for us.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a question mark. I guess I'm not as dialed in as to everything that's going on the defensive side. I did say I'm pretty psyched that Diaco is there, and hopefully he makes a difference.
Yeah. Well, they're pushing the defense. As far as publicly, that they're doing well. The defensive line is more aggressive. We're deep at linebacker. Deshaun White, the line, he's a freshman that they're talking about. We may have 2 freshmen, anchoring a nickel defense, because they're talking about putting him out with Buki in the nickel, and he's lighting people up right now.
Well, they wouldn't have to play a whole lot better to be better. Good grief, 67.
That's what exactly, Rob. It's just that the bar wasn't set too high for expectations, right?
Right. And
on the defensive side,
we've said it before. We're tired of outscoring people. We want to beat people,
right?
There's a difference.
What it came down to last year, right?
Yeah. We outscored everybody we played except 2 teams. And you don't win championships outscoring people. You've got to win a championship by dominating both sides of the ball. And
that's right. Totally agree.
Or you don't even have to dominate on one or the other. You just got to be solid. Yeah. If you can dominate on one side, like we did offensively last year, if we just had a solid defense,
we were all at the Rose Bowl. It sounds like at the same time, and going into overtime when the kick was blocked. I don't want to open up any wounds here, because I know we're all still suffering from it. But when Georgia got the ball back, I had a defeatist attitude. I'll admit it. I'm like, oh my God, all they have to do is run the ball. We're not going to stop it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And would hand it off to Sonny Michel on the left side, and boom, it was over.
Yeah, it was over.
It was almost like, I hate to say it, I almost expected that was what was going to happen.
Oh yeah.
Just because second half we just couldn't stop them.
Yeah, when we lined up to kick a field goal, I knew then. They didn't even have to block it. We were done. I mean, me and Caleb,
me and Caleb, they're going to get 6.
Yeah, me and Caleb and my wife and oldest son were there, David, but Caleb was sitting next to me, and when we come out to kick it, we both were like, we're done. They will score.
Right.
They're going to get the ball on the 20. They're going to score, or 25. They're going to score. We can't stop them.
Well, the defense has shown us that all year long.
Yeah.
That when people need to score on us, they did.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
right.
Well,
it just that Georgia offensive line just started to dominate in the second half, and I think I could have gotten a few yards through some of those holes though too.
Yeah. Well, again though,
let's just say you don't measure my 40 in seconds.
Yeah.
Minutes now.
They're stirring the Kool-Aid for us. I know that. As far as saying the defense is better, and I said I'm just not. I'm not even going to pick up the cup until after the Texas game, and I see 4 or 5 games of a good solid defense. And I think most Oklahoma fans are that way. They're hearing all these great things, but then they're like,
definitely.
So, but anyway, Dan, again, we want to thank you for coming on. Folks can go on. It's tailgateconnect.com, right?
Correct.
And
correct. We'd love to get a big time host at Oklahoma. And if anyone has any interest, please reach out to me. You can find us on social media. Absolutely love to have my favorite school be represented with this venture that we're involved in.
So, we've had a bunch of fans on here on our, I don't want to say a bunch. We've had plenty of fans on here talking about, some of them do some big tailgates and stuff. So you guys out there, and folks have invited us to their tailgates, and sent us pictures. So I know there's some of you guys out there that have a great tailgate. You got a lot of good friends, and you welcome everybody. This is an opportunity for you to welcome some folks and from
show a little Oklahoma hospitality.
To not
that's right.
Not maybe not just an Oklahoma fan, but to anybody but Oklahoma State fans. So
you know what though, that game, I just love it because they get their hopes up so high. And then when we just pounce on them, they're just like crushed, and that's such a good feeling.
Yeah,
every year.
Yeah,
yeah.
But again, guys, go to tailgateconnect.com. Send him a message on social media through Twitter, and it's Tailgate Connect on Twitter. And if you're, we follow each other on there. So if you gotta, if you're not sure what it's called, so, message me, message us, direct message, or put something on the board, and then we'll forward it to them. But if you got a really good tailgate and you want to host some folks, get a hold of Dan, and he'll take care of you. And the same way it goes. If we're going out of town, we
might do that next year at UCLA.
Yeah, there you go. Because we're talking about going out to the UCLA game.
I'll tell you what, I'll be hosting the tailgate when you guys come out to UCLA.
Well, there you go.
We're in.
All Sooner fans have an invitation, so that's fantastic.
All right. Well, that's it for this podcast. And again, Dan, appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
And guys, thank you so much for having me.
You
really
bet.
Appreciate
it's been great.
And so, Boomer Rob.
Boomer Terry.
And Boomer Dan.
Sooner.
Thanks for listening to the Sooner Football Fans Podcast. If you want to be on the podcast and talk Sooner football with us, go to www.soonerfootballfans.com. Click on the How to Be on the Podcast tab, fill out the form, and we'll get you on. Boomer.